Hey, what's up, developers? Welcome back to English for Devs, the podcast where we tackle the one thing your bootcamp never taught you, how to actually talk to other humans while writing code. I'm your host, and today we're going into the trenches. We're talking about code reviews. Now, if you've ever submitted a pull request and felt your stomach drop when you saw 12 comments waiting for you, you know the feeling. And if you've ever had to leave those 12 comments without sounding like a total jerk, well, that's today's episode. We're diving into the English phrases, the grammar structures, and the diplomatic language that separates a great code reviewer from one that makes their teammates dread opening GitHub notifications. Let's get into it. So first, let's set the scene. You're reviewing a pull request from a colleague. Let's call him Marcus. Marcus is a solid developer, smart guy. But the function he just wrote? Let's say it's a creative approach to solving a problem. It works, but it's not scalable. It doesn't follow the team's naming conventions, and honestly, it's going to confuse everyone who touches it 6 months from now. Now you have two options. Option A, the blunt route. This is wrong. Rename the variable. This won't scale. Rewrite this. Technically accurate, professionally catastrophic. Option B, the diplomatic route. And that's what we're learning today. Because here's the truth about code reviews in a professional English-speaking environment. It's never just about the code. It's about maintaining trust, preserving psychological safety on the team, and keeping the conversation focused on the work, not the person. Modal verbs, your best friends in a code review. All right, let's talk grammar. And I promise this will be the most useful grammar lesson you've had since someone explained what a semicolon actually does. The secret weapon of diplomatic English? Modal verbs. Modal verbs are words like could, might, would, should, and may. You already know them, but do you know how to use them to soften a critique without losing your point? Let's compare. Blunt. You should use a hash map here. Diplomatic. This might be a good place for a hash map. It could improve lookup time significantly. You hear the difference? In the second version, you're not ordering Marcus around. You're suggesting. You're inviting a conversation. Here are a few modal verb patterns you can use right now in your PR comments. This could be simplified by, we might want to consider. Would it make sense to? This may cause issues if. Practice these, write them down, use them in your next review. From statements to questions, the shift that changes everything. Okay, here's another major move in the diplomatic code reviewer's toolkit, turning statements into questions. Tone is hard to read, context is missing, tension builds fast. Let's go back to Marcus and his function. Say the function name is do stuff. Blunt statement. This function name is not descriptive. Collaborative question. What do you think about renaming this to something that reflects what it actually returns? Something like get user permissions could make it easier for the team to understand at a glance. Marcus doesn't feel attacked. He feels consulted. More phrases. Have you considered handling the edge case where the input is null? I'm curious, what was the thinking behind this approach? Do you think this would be easier to test if we broke it into two functions? You're guiding discovery instead of forcing correction. Conditional structures, softening without sugarcoating. Now let's talk about conditional sentences. Instead of, this will break in production, try, if this runs against a dataset larger than a few thousand records, it could hit performance issues. Worth stress testing before we merge? Same meaning, different emotional impact. More patterns. If we go with this approach, we might need to update the documentation as well. If the requirements change down the road, this structure could make refactoring tricky. Even if this works now, if we onboard more users next quarter, we may want to revisit the caching strategy. You respect present work while protecting future stability. When you disagree, holding your ground professionally. Sometimes you don't suggest, you disagree. First rule, separate the idea from the person. Instead of, that's not how async/await works. Try, I think there might be a misunderstanding here about how async/await handles errors in this context. Let me share what I've seen. Useful phrases. I see your point and I want to make sure we've also considered. I might be missing something, but this could lead to a race condition. I understand the appeal of this solution and I'd want us to weigh maintainability cost. I'd feel more comfortable if we ran this by the team before merging. And if it keeps looping, let's take this offline. Receiving feedback, the other side of the table. Receiving feedback matters just as much. Thanks for catching that. I'll take a look. Good point. I missed the edge case. Can you help me understand what you'd prefer to see here? Let me think about this and get back to you. If you disagree, I hear you and I want to push back on this a little. Here's my reasoning. Phrases to bookmark. Quickfire list. For suggesting, it might be worth considering. One thing we could explore is, would it be possible to... For risks. This could potentially cause issues when... I'd want to make sure we've accounted for. Just flagging this to keep an eye on. For clarifying, what was the intention behind this approach? Can you walk me through this? For disagreeing, I see it a bit differently. Let me share my perspective. I'd push back slightly because we might be looking at this from different angles. For closing conflict, let's find a solution that works for both of us. Happy to defer to you, but wanted to flag the concern. Should we loop in the team? And that's a wrap on today's episode of English for Devs. Code reviews are not audits, they're conversations. You can be technically brilliant and professionally clumsy, or you can combine skill with communication that builds trust. That's how you become someone people want to build things with. If you found this helpful, share it with a developer friend. And if you have a code review horror story, I'd love to hear it. Until next time, keep shipping, keep learning, and remember, great code is written by great teams, and great teams communicate. See you next episode.